This video is brought to you by
Cool green clothing coming straight up out of that DMV. You know what it is. This that Baltimore designer right here. Come on now, come and show some love and show some support. Go online right now, coolgreenclothing.com, and make your purchase. Oh yeah, by the way, if you ain't cool and getting the green, you're in the way, and that's just basic.
What's going on, YouTube fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. You definitely gonna want to watch this one to the end. Got something different for y'all today. Somebody want to tell their story. So yeah, man, definitely watch this one. It's a good message at the end.
What's toppin'? This Kayo, formerly known as Red Eyes. This is my story on another episode of the Baltimore Way.
Let's get right into the story. The street life, robbers, hitters, trappers, gangs. A lot of people that might not come from a certain environment might be curious on what leads an individual down a certain path. In reality, and despite what some think, when you are out here young and impressionable, sometimes you don't choose that life. It chooses you. Once you are off the porch, instead of being halfway, a lot of us are taught go hard or go home, ending in individuals wanting to be the best at whatever they decide to do. Gangs in Baltimore, a city that in the earlier days was more about blocks and product. Whoever's neighborhood was jamming and getting the most money. But the early 2000s, a shift would come in. The city was hit hard and what some would call a gang problem. But what makes a young man or woman want to join the gang? Is it looking for family, their environment, curiosity? We will keep the intro short because today on the Baltimore Way, we will be discussing Kevin Gary, aka Kayo or Red Eyes. Kayo was born on October 9th, 1981 in Baltimore, Maryland. As a little boy, his mother, father, and 2 brothers lived in Freedom Way projects, where Kayo would do typical hopper stuff, get into a little bit of trouble, be mischievous, just a normal around the way shorty. He had an older brother named Lee and a little brother named Sean. But early on, him and another young man from around his way would grow an inseparable bond. The male Kelly. The 2 young men became thick as thieves, running the streets from Freedom Way and Claremont, watching some of the older guys and Baltimore legends like the Barfields. The 2 young men was just soaking up game. Kayo's father had left the family when he was just 9 years old, so his attention shifted as a little boy to more being outside in the neighborhood, in which he loved. That was all he really knew. Then one day, Miss Linda, his mother, would come to him and his brothers and tell the boys they were moving, which crushed the young boy, who didn't want to leave the area or his best friend. The family was relocating to Clinton Street in Highlandtown. Kayo was so devastated the day of the move, he tried to run and hide because he didn't want to go and leave his homie. Once they left, the new neighborhood didn't have too much going on. It wasn't no action. It was really quiet. But soon noticing Kayo was missing his best friend, his mother came up with a solution for the male to start coming over every weekend to stay. Everything was working out until one day, the male never came, and Kayo found out his road dog and best friend had been killed. This was a big turning point that crushed him, made him grow resentment towards his mother because he felt if he was dead, the situation would have never happened. Kayo started rebelling hard, bucking his mother's rules until she gave him an ultimatum. Either live by her rules or go out here and try to make it on your own. So at just 13 years old, the young man left home to navigate the Baltimore streets. In 1994, sleeping in abandoned houses, stealing food from Royal Farms to eat. By this time, some North Carolina boys had took over Highlandtown, and Kayo would find a few homies' houses he could stay the night at sometimes. But his focus was staying out and being in the streets, with the big boys watching everything and observing the way they moved. He even attempted to hustle and sell packs, but that didn't work out too well, as he would sell enough for his cut of the money, then take the product back to whoever gave it to him. So he became known as the hopper to never give a pack to. Being a skinny teen, Kayo felt like he always had to do everything to the extreme to earn his respect. So that's what he did. Ended him up in placements, foster homes, and juvenile centers real early. By 17 years old, he caught his first adult charge for a gun, which landed him over to jail on L section. But that didn't faze the young man at all. He just wanted to get back uptown to hit the streets. By this time, Kayo felt like he would be something, but he couldn't put his finger on it. He just felt it. But still being young, he hated authority and loved the streets. By 1999, that mentality landed him back in prison, this time up Brockbridge. Known for wearing a lot of bandanas in the streets because of the Hot Boys, the rap group had the city turned. Kayo asked his baby mother to send him a package with all colors of bandanas and street clothes. Some of them were red. As he walked the prison halls with the red rag, a New York dude stopped him and asked, "Who you be?" Kayo ignored him and kept bopping. But later on, one of his homies approached him and told him like, "Yo, you just can't be walking around with them red flags on your head like that. That represents Bloods." Not knowing nothing about gangs at the time, Kayo just laughed it off, stating, "Yeah, alright." But his homie Apple, who approached, was his mans, and he respected him. The New York dude kept sending Apple to try to recruit Kayo. He was a non-trade gangster. Kayo kept declining, telling Apple, "I'm not joining no gang." But a turning point came one day while Kayo was in the gym. The New York boy approached him, telling him about black history, oppression, authority, and police. Telling Kayo, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. At 18 and already not having respect for authority, Kayo was sold. The New York boy told him blood was all about unity amongst our own and fighting the oppressor. At first, Kayo hesitated and told him he would think about it and get back to him. But being angry, feeling like the police took him away from his newborn and baby mother, Kayo agreed. A few days later, a guy named WC approached him and told him like, "Yo, you will be directly under me." But he wasn't non-Trey, he was Piru. Crazy thing is, after all that talk about unity, Kayo's first mission was to poke up another black man who had dropped his flag and didn't want to bang blood no more. So him and another new member took care of that business. WC ended up getting shipped to another prison for doing something crazy, and Kayo lost contact with him altogether. Then Kayo himself was shipped down to BCCC in 2002. He was still repping the gang, but quickly realized he didn't know anything. If he would have been asked something, he wouldn't know what to say about the Bloods. That could get you hurt or looked at as false flagging. So desperate, he needed to find out where WC was at, and which he did, and wrote him a letter asking for information so he could be good. WC sent him the history of Trait 8 Piru, which turned to Treetop Piru. It worked for a minute, but later down the line, Kayo realized the history WC gave him was all wrong and could have definitely got him hurt. The New York boy who was running the whole thing was faking the whole time, in which he would also later find out. But luckily, he made it back home safe in 2003. By this time, Kayo realized it was other Bloods in the streets, but he was the only Treetop Piru. He met members of the FOE Bloods, which was a branch off the 9 Trey in Baltimore. Kayo found himself hanging with them every day, but they respected the fact he was Piru and never tried to recruit him. The head of FOE would give him a nickname, the Human Torch, because he wore so much red and represented so hard. By 2004, Kayo met some more treetops. To his surprise, they were all through the city, from Greenmount, Emerson Avenue, even in the county out Essex. His hub though was down the hill, Belnord and Monument. Kayo would transform the whole hood to treetop. From the 400 to 700 block was all theirs from 2004 to 2006. Things started getting shaky though. The city started to acknowledge they had a gang problem. They wouldn't put it out there to the people, but they knew. One day Kayo looked up, asking himself how did he end up being the gang leader. Remember feeling like he was always different and would be something. His set did dirt, but nothing reckless. They cared about the hood. He made his homies clean up the block, helped the older people, stopped people from getting evicted, gave out turkeys for the holidays, school supplies, took the kids to Six Flags and parked pools for the summer. They even stopped other beefs with other hoods by sitting at the round table. Parents felt safe sending their kids with Kayo. That should have spoke volumes. But BPD only saw a gang member, by this time nicknamed Red Eyes because of his red contacts he always wore. They hated the fact kids looked up to him. So Baltimore City Police Flex Squad targeted Kayo, trying to get him hit, even snatching him from the 700 block of Baltimore one day, putting him in the back of the patrol car with no cuffs, ride him around down the hill with the window down, pointing out, saying, "Is that him, Kayo?" Trying to make people think he was snitching. But everybody around the way knew them police wasn't right. One day again, the same officers came and took Kayo all the way over west to Poplar Grove, where at the time there was a lot of Crips at. They made him get out the car before getting on the bullhorn, screaming out "Sue Woo" to get attention. They really wanted Kayo gone. The last time they attempted this, he decided only one thing he could do: go to Internal Affairs. Feeling like he was telling, it went against everything he stood for, but he couldn't fight the police. While in the office, he got up to leave twice, second guessing what he was doing. But his mother convinced him that was the only way it would stop. After leaving, Kayo had no idea Internal Affairs would tell the Flex Squad he came down at. This made them get slicker and target him even more. Coming to the block the next day, stating ain't no way, the biggest Piru in Baltimore, telling on the police, not Red Eyes. Kayo was furious. They started arresting him on petty charges like loitering, open containers, and his people as well, making the block hot or arresting everyone to the point he was the only one around. Then in 2006, they got their wish, when in January, him and 3 other treetop members got accused of first-degree murder. The indictment accused him, his man's bad guy, Lucky, and Noodles of a hit on a man named Terrence Williams on Decker and McElderry Street. One of the main witnesses in the case was a young lady, a treetop pirate, and her mother and sister. But the case was all circumstantial, built on lies. And within a few months, they all got acquitted. Some of the guys had other charges to fight, but they beat the hit charges. But little did Kayo know, in the background, the feds was building a case. While they were all locked up fighting that, Kayo and his team wasn't worried about the state, but they had no idea how the feds moved. By this time, he started to move differently after beating a body. While he was gone, his little brother unfortunately lost his life. So Kayo's lust for the streets was fading away. Just 2 weeks after release, one of his co-defendants would catch another body out Essex. I did a story on that. This will bring even more heat to the gang. Trying to stay out the way, the police was still trying to get Kayo, pulling up, telling him the dude who hit his brother was standing on the block down the street, asking him like, "You ain't gonna do nothing?" But Kayo was getting tired of the games they was playing. His focus was shifting. He contacted a friend of the family that had connections, who he looked at as a father figure. He told the man he wanted to do something different and he wanted something out of life. The friend said, "Anything you want to do legally, I got you." Kayo wanted to publish his own magazine and host a radio show. It worked. Both came through, figuring he would change the way people viewed him and his homies to a positive narrative. Kayo was still hanging with the gang, but building a brand. On the day he was set to get on the radio, he was arrested at his mother's house by the DEA and charged with violating the federal RICO law with 27 other people. Exhausted by this time, Kayo didn't even care no more. Out of 27, 5 told, and that was enough to get Kayo sentenced. On March 27th, 2009, he was given 30 years and sent to Philly. He couldn't even be around COs because he was known to flip them to Pirus. Kayo had it rough. They treated him like a top risk inmate. He would eventually get shipped off to USP Allenwood. Once he settled in, he run into Mookie, Anthony Jones' brother, and others from uptown who told him how to handle a long bid. Kayo instantly thought of a way to turn a negative into a positive, feeling like they ain't win. I'ma win at the end. He started focusing on changing his mindset, and with no experience at all, began writing his first book, Frenemies, Who Can You Trust? It wasn't based on true events, everyone thought it was, but he used part of his case to loosely tie the story together. Everyone loved it. It was a hit. The next book he would write would be called Shush, Stop Snitching, what would eventually be changed to Frenemies 2. Now Kayo has wrote over 44 novels. He is an established author with 18 books published. He is still a voice. He helps calm down beefs in the streets, but the main objective is helping the youth and changing the narrative of gangs. Kayo feels like prison was a blessing and gave him a clear vision of his purpose that he always felt when he was on the streets. He said he would be different. Now he knows what that feeling was, to go through all this, to be that voice of the trenches, to help the people and the city. Out of 28 co-defendants, 23 guys and 5 females, only 4 remain in prison. But Kayo time is coming short. He should be hitting the streets real soon, in a few years. His goal is to show how you can turn a negative to a positive and find purpose in any situation. All his books are available on Amazon. As Kayo doesn't glorify the things he did, he doesn't regret them either, as everything made him who he is today. He wanted to leave a message for the youth out there living the same life as he did. So I'm going to leave y'all with that. It's another episode of the Baltimore Way. It's your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out. Here go the message from Kayo.
I'm not going to preach to you, but I'm going to give you law. Once those cuffs go on your wrist, no matter how many co-defendants you got, all you got is you. Your friends in the streets, they gonna say free you all day long. But still, behind this wall, all you gonna have is yourself. The ones who secretly hated you or wish they could have been you, they gonna slander your name to anybody that'll listen. That's what you have to prepare for when you live in this lifestyle. Ain't no winners at the end, only losers. I was just lucky enough mentally to overcome my circumstances and change myself from within. I watched a lot of good men falter under the pressure of doing long prison sentences. Ain't nothing lit or slick about doing 30, 40, 50 years in prison. It's only lit and slick and honorable to the ones who not doing the time. Respect your freedom. I know I wish I respected mine. Trees.